So for sure we have different level of communication, and to different levels apply different criteria. That's our general criteria. But for instance, in the EFSA guidelines, you see that the final part is dedicated to examine which mean of communication is useful for a determined audience. So they tell you, okay, Twitter is good for this audience, and to communicate this kind of risk or news. Stakeholders meeting are an option, but it's clearly an option, a complementary option to inform the stakeholders of the situation, try to get their help, try to use the power in terms of communication to reach the consumers and do a coordinated risk communication with the stakeholders. So there are a lot of instruments available, which are the traditional press, all the social media, stakeholders meeting, working groups, public statements from EFSA, public statements from the political authority, joint statements, sometimes also the Joint Research Center of the European Union, quoted by Alberto, join in this risk assessment. It's appear on the risk assessment made by EFSA and communicate. So it's difficult to modulate the communication, but for sure, as I said, also the content could be different. You have to go in one direction, and you have to be very clear about what are your objectives. But it's clear that what is go to the public is different compared to what goes to the national competent authorities or to the stakeholders. You can have different messages, different press release, I would say, but you have to ensure coherence between all these actions. But I don't have a solution, honestly. It's a case-by-case approach, and cannot be different. That's why we need specialists, or we need a task force in doing this, because my view can be different from the one of social scientists.
I think we still have plenty of time and periods to discuss the issue later during the roundtable discussion. I think it's about time for you to enjoy the tea or coffee. Thank you.
Thanks to Professor Ni, Professor Andino, and our Mr. Verano for giving us a fantastic presentation. We will have a 10-minute break from now until 11:30. We've prepared refreshments and beverage outside of this conference room. Please enjoy. The next section will begin at 11:30. Please come back in time. Thank you. 国际研讨会的演讲部分在此告一段落，中场休息时间为10分钟。会场外备有精美茶点，请各位来宾自由取用。下一场综合座谈将于11点20分开始。请需要登记公务人员终身学习时数的来宾至现场报到处登记。
没有来学习。
由于来宾报到与会期间十分有限，大会目前仅提供会议手册与网络报名的来宾，请现场报名的来宾若有需要会议手册，麻烦于研讨会下午场结束后在行政报到处询问。非常感谢各位的配合。
来了解一下目前大家怎么看这个事，然后听听大家会讨论这个。
最近好忙碌。没有啦，天哪！把它 它不是一般生的。部长，你老是看错字了。不要轻易尝试。而且年会那天，我 seminar， 我那天的时候没办法上台，每学期都有 seminar。如果上完去年会绕分钟，可是还没办法。去外面啊，大家都在外面啊，现在要不要去一下？然后顺便去厕所。你找没有位置坐？还是先搬这边位置？可是因为你坐旁边，他没有人坐。因为他都会希望说今天的人平晚站。哇！那我搬一个这个。是，真的太喜欢。我想说律师。律师。
学校说我们的厂商高会变得很难，
我跟你讲，这是你的问题，你现在会跟我以前没有这个，
老师现前什么的很，
我以前没有这个困扰，对，
那个对，
我以前没有这个困扰，那他现我后来有困扰，跟你现在困扰是一样，当时是微微，知道吗？然后呢，被攻下来，然后那个时候就是工会报告，然后我就身份证变成做院长是说或者说你是公司，你是什么人？我公，
哦，安慰
你怎样？他没这样直接讲的，但是他的 act 大概就是这个样子。所以，
我没有了，我只是在。
所以你现在就是说，你到底要扮演什么？
我现在是这样先有个有点要现在因为做的很熟，不然好，但是这里面也有一个
没有，还是说那个，然后我跟谁要说？我也真没有，那他就是公文程序，你知道吗？就是直接公文程序，就算没有出版，上面还有内政那个一处，这是公文程序，所以他常说我退钱，不是我退钱，啊，我们中体只是说看过来然后送，院长、副院长或者副院长，他们有意见的时候，我看我就不是死啊，以前都是。先坚持走，我也不想去管这些。
真的，对，我
就是他们到最后还是不会看民众，才会让业者看。
老师好。哦，主任，对，科长好。
我觉得我下次应该要跟交大讲。
校长好，别这样。没有啊。
我们量身定做，就是讲一个每天我专门的议题。
没有，你家老婆都不帮忙，我今天晚上就玩，你没看我穿上衣服还在换季。可是我们还有学会，还有叫你家老婆帮我唱歌。
那你不要找我帮你唱歌啊！我都没想到，对啊，那是爽。
真的假的？
来不及了。
真的哦，在北荣啊。
没有了，
好机场。
我们当官不要太粗，不要太粗鲁。
嗨，张丽丽，你有没有跟我回来一起？对。那个诱因不够大。
没有，我们完完全全都我们只是刚才讲说这里面很复杂的状况下，
你好像也不一样哦，去了学校以后，
对，老师看起来变年轻了，看起来变年轻，真的，对，我已经换了。对，刚刚今天刚刚。
Ladies and gentlemen, the next section will begin in 3 minutes. Please be seated and turn off your cell phone or switch into vibration mode. Thank you. 各位来宾您好，下一场综合座谈将于3分钟后开始，请各位来宾尽速就座，并将手机调为震动或是关机，谢谢。
我帮你拿那个卫生纸。
我去拿，我去拿。
好，麻烦。
内场刚才讲述就是35分开始，现在限10分钟。
现在已经到了，大家，
可是它里面也要讲一下，因为我
刚刚讲了。
各位来宾您好，下一场综合座谈将于1分钟后准时开始，请各位来宾尽速就座，并将手机调为震动或是关机，谢谢。携带茶水、点心、饮料入内的来宾，麻烦多加注意，小心以防倾倒。非常谢谢您的配合。请携带茶水、点心、饮料入内的来宾，麻烦多加注意，小心以防倾倒。非常谢谢您的配合。 Now let's move on to the roundtable discussion. It's our great pleasure and honor to welcome 4 remarkable discussants in this session. Now let's first give a big hand to welcome our moderator, Professor Ni, again, to give the introduction to the discussants.
Thank you all to continue our discussion. And during this session, it's my great pleasure. We have so many distinguished guests and speakers who are actually responsible for the policy making and also doing many substantial involvement about the risk management. Well, first of all, let me introduce legislator Wu Kun-yu. Legislator Wu, Dr. Wu probably is very few person in Taiwan actually specializing in risk assessment. So nobody can compete with him at this moment. And the second speaker is Professor Dean Kang Zhaozhou. Dean, as you know, he was a former Director General of Taiwan FDA. He also accumulated a lot of experience in handling many food crises. Now he's back to school to serving as Dean for School of Pharmaceutical Science at the National Yangming University. Our third speaker is Chair Professor Huang Yaowen. He's now the Chair Professor from National Taiwan Ocean University. He's also specializing in HACCP and food science, etc. Our last speaker is Professor Zhang Zhenyu. He's associate professor, also from National Taiwan Ocean University. He told me he's spent a lot of time in terms of doing the training for person responsible for HACCP, etc. Also, he's doing a lot of research on different food sectors. So today we have so many distinguished guests here. Especially they make some comments and feedback to Mr. Barraro's speech. So it's very good opportunity for this roundtable discussion. So after our discussion finish, of course, we will open to you to have your question and mutual discussion. Okay, so now I turn to Regis Wu. You have the floor.
Good morning, distinguished speakers and guests. It's truly my great honor to be here. And actually, I'm sorry that I just missed to talk this morning because I went to another symposium that called the therapy. So I just came back from the conference and attend this conference. And as Professor Lee mentioned that since I was a master student, I make decision to assume the career risk. So I, from my doctor, the work for my doctor dissertation, I started working on this field. So then came back to Taiwan and could be the first one to give 4 more lectures on risk assessment and risk communication. And so, but although that in the past 8 years, a lot of did not pay attention to what I have done and the paper I have published. I think there are few faculty members in Taiwan really publish in difficult international journal related risk assessment and different related risk communication also. And I really appreciate that I can invite to this distinguished speaker. The first one are the foundation for this regulation. What is the foundation? When we talk about food safety, what do you mean safety? Actually, for example, like Kodak said the ADI, what the ADI means and how the ADI was estimated. Actually based on risk assessment, especially based on error identification and also based on those response assessment. If we conduct those response assessment, then we can estimate the ADI. For example, in the other terms, for example, in environmental science, we call reference dose, and in food safety, food science, we call ADI. Actually, the results of those response assessments will come out by ADI. If we use melamine as an example, around the event was in 2008, and end of the year, in December, WHO complained of NX per meeting, and they come out or recommended ADI. But actually, based on the dose response assessment, they use the current method we call benchmark dose approach to estimate the ADI by using more data. So I think this is the foundation, because we would like to regulate the hazardous material in food at the point of the we call safe dose, and it's defined in risk assessment we call threshold. The threshold is equivalent to the safe dose in food science, so that's why we use the benchmark dose to assess we call the point of departure, and based on point of departure, we can assess the ADI. The second issue is risk communication. Actually, why is it important? Because we call the experts a decision maker, and also we call the person actually have dramatic difference in risk perception on what is risk and what is the hazardous material. A great difference in risk perception. So this issue was published in the years of the 1980s. So gradually, the regulation agency, for example, US EPA, FDA, found that actually risk communication is very critical to have consensus decision between regulation and the public. So that's why risk communication has gained attention since 1996. The American National Research Council published a book called Risk Evaluation, Informed Public. In this book, emphasized on risk communication. And this similar approach has been gradually adopted by European unions and also by the WHO. So they adopt a similar approach of risk analysis. For example, the WHO accept the framework proposed by USA, we call it Presidential and Congress Risk Management Commission, the same framework published by WHO in the 2003. We call food safety risk analysis, all the same framework. And what is risk communication? Actually, risk communication is a technology risk communication. And we can classify risk communication in three categories. The first one is health communication. The second is called consensus communication. The third one is crisis communication. For example, in the food safety, the risk assessment, the goal of risk assessment is to attain or approach the consensus between regulator and also the public. So how to communicate risk to come up with a consensus between the decision maker and the public is very important. So actually, in environmental science and food science or food safety, we need to how to communicate risk to obtain consensus between regulator and also the public. It's very important. And third one is crisis communication, was mentioned by the speaker at the end of his speech. crisis communication is for example, for declaration or for events often happens. So the industry, how to industry to communicate with the consumers, and also the regulator, decision maker, or administrator, how to communicate with the public. That's the crisis communication. Crisis communication requires preparation. Preparation, for example, set up system and a team for the emergency response. So at the time when the decision maker or regulator conducted emergency response and communicated with the public and the media reporter. So I think there's need of preparation and plan ahead to wait, not to wait until the emergency indeed happens. So that will be too late. So I think in the past, our government had good emergency response plan now, and also, but the crisis communication need to further make progress in the crisis communication. But in Taiwan, actually, it developed consensus communication. So that's why I think the major part of the second speaker, actually, they are all the fundamental principle and also basic concept of risk communication to obtain consensus between the decision maker and the public. I think in my time limit, so I end here. Thank you very much.
So legislator would like to, he's really expert. Okay, now we turn to risk manager, because as I mentioned, he was the Taiwan NDA director before. So of course, you get to more than risk management.
Because the topic of today is communication, so focus on the communication and probably give some example of that. It's very good. Give the outline how to communicate. But I remember that when used to have, we wanted to do the ISO in Taiwan FDA. A lot of people tell us that ISO, all the guidelines can just tell you what to do, how to do it, but it doesn't tell you how to do it right. Okay, so this is a problem with everybody trying to follow the guideline to do things, you know. Because it's very good, the legislator who would say that consensus. So I think yesterday, or I think it's yesterday, we have a GMO public hearing about this, and I stated that a lot of people ask me whether it's safe or not, or can eat it or not. Do I eat the GMO food or not? But will that be a consensus between the who oppose it or against or approve the GMO food? I think this is difficult because who is strong support the GMO food? They use the American way of thinking, using scientific evidence. We prove it is safe. We show you a lot of evidence is safe, positive listing. But a lot of people have spectacle or is against the GMO food. They use in the European style thinking it's preventive. They're using the risk. They're always a risk. You can never prove it is safe. But even in the United States, they prove the approval for a food material or food additive. They always also have two different way of thinking. For a normal food additive, they're using the decision tree. They prove the additive is safe for approval. But for the grass compound, they can only prove there's no harm. Okay, it's it's very different way. So I think that's why I say for the risk communication, there's no way, there's no a standard way to do the communication because everybody have different perspectives. I remember that about 6 years ago, me and the CDC, we tried to handling the pandemic flu vaccines problems. We have press release every day, every morning and afternoon, and providing all the evidence, say it is safe. But there's no way because young kids, Liu Xiaodi, they died. And the father and the mother, especially the mother, kneel down, cry in front of the TV. I always say, okay, we are going to lost. There's no way to do any communication at all at that point. So all the vaccination is stopped at that point. So it is, using this example, it's just that risk communication is very fragile, it's very, okay, it's so it's very difficult. So you have to changing your communications all the times, the strategy and how to do it. And at that time, when doing the vaccine fight, so a lot of lawyers, our school, from National Taiwan University, a lot of teachers from law school, they say, well, we want to see the clinical trial data. I say, what do you mean? That's the personal data. It's medical record. How can I show you this? That's come out from the lawyer. So don't they know the law about the protection of the personal data, especially for clinical data? They know it, but they just want to, they don't have trust at that time. The lawyer don't have trust for the medical doctor at all. So the consensus and the trust is a key point to this risk communication. But throughout all these years, I still facing a lot of problems. This before this. For example, a lot of missing the hygiene standard, 卫生标准, to the 国际标准, the international standard, the codex, and to the safety standard. This is quite three different perspectives. For the hygiene standard is internally the Taiwan wanted for administration purpose. Okay, and they say a lot of people saying international code standard codex, but actually what's the international standard? It's only used by WTO. The codex is used by WTO. It's for trade purpose. It's not for safety purpose. So once you say you want to push some policy, so you use the standard, international standard. So okay, because there's an international codex in standard, so we want to let this in for open up the trade, or there's something imported into Taiwan. But once you want to stop it, you using the same constitution, using the same word, because there's no codex standards. So I think it's very mistaken by everybody using all this standard to try to talk about food safety issues. Okay, and the other one is the most taken is by fraud. Food fraud or adulteration to the safety issues, and you treat it using differently. I always say that everybody wants to write everything into our simulation or food safety law, but this is wrong. The food fraud, it's just food for itself. It's just a media. You can have fraud for everything. Like for example, recently there is a 防火器, the anti-fire paint. It's a fraud also. It will cause safety also. It's not just you lost your money. It's a safety problem. So there's a lot of problems. So we should, this should be, we in Taiwan, we should have the strong consumer protection law. I think this, or even the agency. I think this is very important. Otherwise, you put everything into the food sanitation or safety law. It's not going to solve the problem, especially like recently the adulteration problems. Nobody can, even the judge, it's difficult to make decisions because we put in the wrong thing into using the different laws. Okay. And the other thing is, I want to say is that we are talking about the independence risk assessment. And I'm so sorry that, but our administrative or a lot of people in the high place mistaken this, the risk assessment and risk management is independent. It's not independent. I think Dr. Huang will talk about it. It's linked together. You know, there's no way you can separate the risk assessment and the risk management. And the other mistaken is that all the risk managers think that we can have risk assessment independent, so they don't need to do any assessment. That's wrong. For doing a risk management, you do need a lot of assessment too. Okay, you have to do the consumption assessment in order to set the right MIL. Otherwise, you are not good. You have ADI, but you have to translate into MIL. You need a consumption assessment, and you do need a necessity assessment. For example, for the drug, we have a therapeutic index. That's very clear cut. That means your effectiveness, your toxicity is larger than your effectiveness. You cannot be approved. But there were always assumption. For a drug that will cause the cure AIDS, but will probably side adverse effect on hepatotoxicity. You will still approve it because the AIDS treatment is more important than the hepatotoxicity. So this is the same as that whether we want to think about using the GMO because you say, oh, we can reduce the pesticide use or we can use a safer pesticide. But is it true? Okay, but so we're deciding which pesticide can be used, which using the non-toxic to replace the toxic one. So that's all need assessment. And we do a lot of law impact assessment. This impact assessment is very important. Okay, and the economic assessment. Economic assessment is always using the profit. Recently, our government said, well, we want to trade because we're using trade because we can have some trade benefit. But how can you put trade and safety together in the one balance? You know, it's very, very strange communications. This is what I think. The press release is very confusing. So what we need is the industry. We talk about values, not profit. The value comprises of profit and beneficial to our domestic people. That's value. So all the industry we should talk about value, not just profit. Okay, and when we do this, we have to think about decontaminations. For example, there's a contaminate with a heavy metal or contaminate. I think before the UC Davis, they have a contamination with a radioactive area. So the money used to detoxification is more than the profit you're going to bring in. so you're not going to do it. So I think this is what I'd like to express last is that I think assessment is everywhere. Every step you're making any decisions is that. So is the communication. When you do the assessment, then you have to follow up by a communication. Then you can do the right management and policy. Okay, thank you very much.
Kong just give us very good illustration how difficult it is managing the risk analysis. I think even some cases you mentioned is not working so well, but we can learn a lot from past experience for the future good management. Now we turn to academia as Chair Professor Huang Yaowen, and he will share his expertise from scientist perspective, please.
Thank you, Professor Lee, and glad to have this opportunity to share and to learn from each other. Sarah, I think it was a very good presentation this morning, so I think that everybody learned many things. And just correspond to Cesari's talk, and also look at what's the risk-taking area which we have in Taiwan. I've been in the U.S. for 40 years and retired last year and come back here, and then I get the opportunity to teach in my alma mater, National Taiwan Ocean University. This is technology. Okay. I think this interesting issues, also serious issue about the food fraud. We say the 食品诈欺. There is a story or a joke that been widespread in mainland China. The story says this: a man was abandoned by his girlfriend. So he very sad. So he went to the agricultural product store to buy a bottle of pesticide and try to commit suicide. So after that, they sent it to the hospital, and unfortunately, he didn't kill himself. So happy, and they come back, and his friends have a celebration and make a big banquet for him because of the new life. And so they buy lots of spirit, liquor to drink. Unfortunately, after the dinner, this guy passed away. And then they find out what's happening because that's a fraud. Because the pesticide is not real pesticides. And that the liquor is also fraud. It's not the real liquor. So that means he didn't kill by pesticide, but killed by the liquor. So that's also the food fraud. The first thing is pesticide probably not cause any food safety issues, but the liquor is food safety issues. Okay, let's look our new Food Safety and Sanitation or Hygiene Act, which we have in the past 2014. When I was in US, I was surprised why we changed our Food Sanitation Act to Food Safety and Sanitation Act. Because sanitation is a must. It's a baseline. You need to have it. we talk about food safety, it's much broad, include the process, not just the cleaning of facilities. So we needed to ask the legislator, Mr. Wu, Professor Wu, try to see if we're just using the food safety law. We don't need a sanitation in there. That's the baseline. Okay, in this here, I'm so glad that we added chapter 2 in here. I still have a problem with this. Thank you. Good. Thank you. I get the wrong thing here. Yes, they're working. All right, from here we have this.